The police have a very serious message for presidential candidate Joseph Biden. Please stop telling people to shoot other people in the leg. I love it. Joe Biden has no idea what he's talking about, and he said this more than once. Oh, come on, man. The cops should shoot him in the leg, not shoot him into kill. That's a really bad idea. And shooting someone in the leg can still kill them. I get the sentiment, and to be fair, I'm not playing any games. I said the same thing. I think it was a year or two ago. I was like, the cops don't need to just shoot and kill somebody. They could, shoot to wound. And then all these people say, you don't do that, and here's why. We've been through this. We have laws for this. We have training for this. You only shoot to kill. If you're not intending to kill, you don't shoot. So the idea that Joe Biden is trying to expand the use cases for lethal force is alarming. No. You shoot when someone is threatening your life and you need to stop them, period. And there's a viral video. So when Joe Biden said this, people put it next to this video where a guy has got a knife and he's running at a cop, and the cop shoots him in the body several times. And the guy gets back up, grabs a cop by the arm around his neck, and then the other cop puts a bullet in his head. That's the reality. So I think, early on I said this and I was quickly educated. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, you really shouldn't just aim for people's legs. You don't shoot unless you have to. And there's a bunch of other things, sometimes people miss and stuff like that. But the police are now ripping Biden's repeated advice to shoot suspects in the leg. They reject this incredibly ignorant suggestion. Here's what I say. People whose only experience with guns comes from action movies should not be proposing legislation. Law enforcement groups blasted Vice President Joe Biden for again suggesting training police to shoot suspects in the leg is a viable way to avoid fatalities, decrying the proposal as dangerous and ignorant. During an ABC News town hall Thursday, Biden gave the shooting advice while talking about broader police reforms, which have been in the public conscience since the killing of George Floyd sparked nationwide racial unrest. Quote, there's a lot of things we've learned and it takes time, but we can do this. You can ban chokeholds. You have to teach people how to de-escalate circumstances. Instead of anybody coming at you and the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. You shoot them in the leg, but you don't choke them. I love this timeline. Do you know what a chokehold does? I think I was wrong about this one too, and I had people correct me. A chokehold is an option a cop could use before shooting someone. When you put someone in a chokehold, you're not cutting off their air. You're cutting off blood flow to the brain, which makes them pass out, become passive and easily restrained. If you've got someone who is on a murderous rampage and you have the ability to use a chokehold, it's a good thing. The issue is not chokeholds. The issue is the circumstances in which chokeholds were being applied. Now he's saying ban chokeholds. Okay, you got a guy who's running around punching people in the face. What do? Well, you've taken away their ability to use chokeholds. So now what do they resort to? Their gun. Shoot to kill. Now you're saying shoot him in the leg? So you've gotten rid of chokeholds and replaced it with shoot them? Talk about stupidity. Police officers and law enforcement groups pounced on the suggestion that officers would train to shoot someone in the leg rather than center mass, the largest part of the body that has long been the firearms training target. You know why? Imagine you're in a public place and a guy's coming at you. Center mass is probably the most likely you're going to hit. The legs are moving. The arms are moving. But center mass is kind of in the same place, unless they're running serpentine or whatever. The cop says, I know, Joe Biden says shoot him in the leg. So he aims down, fires, bullet ricochets, hit an old lady, boom, she goes down. No, aim center mass. And don't shoot unless you intend to destroy. Detectives Endowment Association tweeted, former VP Joe Biden's suggestion that cops should shoot someone in the leg if they're coming at them is insulting and demonstrates his incompetence and inability to understand the grave dangers cops face as they protect the public and themselves from violent, heartless criminals. John Evans, president of the Buffalo Police Benevolent Association, told Fox News that Biden's suggestion is absolutely ridiculous and incredibly ignorant. The guy's clueless, Evans said. And I know he's just trying to appease his left-wing base, but it's a really foolish statement. Joe Gamaldi, vice president of the National Fraternal Order of Police, dismissed Biden's suggestion as completely ridiculous, unrealistic, and a pandering talking point. Shootings are dynamic situations, and we shoot to stop the threat. He told Fox News, "It's incredibly difficult to hit a moving target." The Fraternal Order of Police has endorsed President Trump. Police are trained to aim at center mass because it's the largest target, whereas aiming at a leg would be much more difficult because it's a smaller and moving target. By aiming at legs, we are much more likely to miss, and we already only hit roughly 50% of the time. Grimaldi recalled a shooting he was involved in about 14 years ago. Between being terrified I was going to die, someone shooting at me, and then I need to aim at their legs is not realistic. Not only that, it doesn't stop the threat. If somebody has a gun, so you shoot them in the legs and they fall down, they still have a gun. You shoot them in the chest, they are no longer a threat if they are no longer alive. That's the horrifying reality of what it's like when someone's trying to kill you. Now, we've talked about, in our society, various ways police could disable somebody without killing them. A good example would be chokehold. Okay, chokehold's not a good option if someone's firing at you, they're at range. But don't we want to subdue a person with the lower likelihood of death? This story is the perfect example of how the left can never be satisfied because of relative perception. If you come from a society where everyone's getting shot all the time, and then find out here in the US we use chokeholds, you're going to be like, that's so much better because people are getting shot all the time. What happens now with the left? We stop shooting people. We start doing chokeholds. Then they say, you don't need to do chokeholds. You're killing people. Okay, but less people are dying because we're not shooting them anymore. You understand? They ban chokeholds. Then Joe Biden says, shoot him in the leg. Now more people are going to die. They don't get it. It's like the banning fossil fuels thing. They're like, ban the fossil fuels now or the world will end. And people are going to die. Like millions. There you go. They say, law enforcement officials interviewed by Fox also say it's a fallacy that shooting someone in the leg could be less lethal, especially if a bullet hits the large femoral artery in their thigh. But officers fear the consequences if they miss the leg completely and the bullet goes astray, or if their leg shot doesn't slow down the suspect. He has a chance to harm the officer or a citizen. Go watch Mythbusters. They did this episode where, you know Mythbusters, you got the two guys, and they did one, who would win in a gunfight or a knife fight. And they found, I think, 21 feet, I think it is where the knife always wins. Always. The amount of time it takes for an out-of-shape individual like these Mythbuster guys to close 21 feet is shorter than it is to draw the weapon and fire it, let alone fire accurately. So what they did was they had a foam knife with a sensor on it. And the goal was to run and make contact with the person who has the gun. The gun had a laser that would declare contact. Within 21 feet, the dude with the sensor blade, could make contact in the face, in the neck, wherever, with the guy going for his gun before he could even draw it and get a shot off. That's crazy. And I think it was, the episode was like, should you bring a knife to a gunfight? We often hear, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But I tell you what, man, cops probably have more to worry about from knives than they do guns in most circumstances. You know why? In a car, if they pull you over, probably a gun, because their mobility is limited. But if a cop's out in the street, yeah, a gun can be a problem, but it's like you're in a tight space. A knife is whack. Watch these videos, man. I watched a video of a police training, and they explain why there is no fighting people with knives. There was this one thing where they were like, how to win a knife fight. Let's say you have a knife and your opponent has a knife. And the number one thing they said was, don't try to cut the other person's body. When they swing the knife, you step away so that there's no way the knife can get close to you, and you cut their hand. That's how they defend. You defend against this. What they explained was, if you have a firearm and the person has a knife, and they do a demonstration where I think they got off like 15 thrusts of the blade before the person who was being pummeled could even draw the gun, and by then you're probably already dying. These people don't get it. They don't. They talk about how in like movies, you'll see the guy grab the knife hand and flip the person over. Nah, never going to happen. You can't do it. You got to run. These cops know this, and they know they can't just shoot you in the leg. And there's something else the left doesn't understand. If you see a guy walking around with a baseball bat, and he's violent, he's threatening people, and he's swinging things, and the cop they say, why don't you just walk away, man, instead of killing him? Okay, imagine this. The cop sees a guy with a baseball bat and he's screaming, I'm going to kill you. Ah. The cop says, you know what? I'm going to walk away to avoid a potentially lethal conflict. He turns around and walks away, and the guy with the baseball bat is running around swinging, and he sees an old lady and he cracks over the head and she dies. And then they say, why didn't you stop him? The cop could have stopped him. I think about like what happened in Parkland when the cop ran off. I know Parkland was very, very different, but there are a lot of cops who probably don't want to shoot people and they get yelled at for not doing it. Joe Biden has no idea what he's talking about. This story is a really good example of how the left doesn't actually care to investigate, ask questions, and figure out what the right way to do something is. And so you know what? When someone like Joe Biden gets in office, you think he's really going to enact any kind of policy? Here's my police reform. Cops shoot people in legs. Never going to happen. It's ridiculous. Well, that's some good advice for Joe, I suppose, but I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.